Welcome to Crypto 10 Digest. Hey, everyone, the big question on everyone's mind right now is it finally here? Is altcoin season about to, explode? Well, listen up, because in this video, we're not just guessing, not at all. We're gonna use the Altcoin Season Index, a key tool, to look at the hard data and figure out if the capital is already rotating away from Bitcoin and into the rest of the market. You'll definitely want to stick around for this one. So, if you haven't seen our last video, video number 9, you're definitely gonna want to go check that out first. That's where we kicked things off. We asked the big questions. Can Bitcoin keep this rally going? And when is that elusive altcoin season finally gonna drop? We talked about everything, from Elliott wave and Fibonacci analysis to the latest institutional money pouring in from those Bitcoin ETFs. We're gonna pick up right where we left off, so, get ready, because we're about to dive deep again. Don't worry, I'll link that video for you at the end of this one so it's super easy to find. So, what is an altcoin season? Well, simply put, it's that electrifying period when altcoins, all the cryptos besides Bitcoin, they're not just growing, but they're absolutely outperforming BTC. I mean, they're not just going up a little, they're going parabolic. And listen, for a lot of us in the crypto space, this is a moment we wait for. It's the chance for some truly massive gains. It's when we see those smaller projects really start to shine, It's a huge shift in market momentum. Alright, so how do you actually track this? Well, one of the best tools we can use is the Altcoin Season Index. This index is a really simple but powerful gauge. It measures how many of the top 100 altcoins have outperformed Bitcoin, specifically, over the last 90 days. It's a great way to see where the market momentum is really shifting. I mean, we've seen this index move a lot recently. Back in June, it was down near 12, signaling a clear Bitcoin-dominated market. Now, it's hovering around 40. A major bounce, but not quite a full-blown altcoin season yet. A full alt season is typically confirmed when that number gets above 75. So, we're in this interesting transition phase, and you've gotta keep your eyes on that number. Alright, let's talk about Bitcoin dominance, or as we often call it, BTC.D. Now, this is a metric that, well, it's really the foundation of how we understand market cycles. It's the ratio of Bitcoin's market capitalization to the total market cap of the entire crypto market. Think of it like this: if Bitcoin dominance is at 50%, that means half of all the money invested in crypto is in Bitcoin. A simple, powerful tool, right? So, why is it so important? Well, it's a massive indicator of market sentiment and capital flow. When BTC dominance is on the rise, it usually means that investors are flocking to Bitcoin. We often see this during times of uncertainty, when people are moving away from riskier altcoins and into what they see as the safer, more established asset. It's that flight to safety we talk about. Now, on the flip side, when BTC dominance starts to fall, especially while the overall crypto market is still growing, that's a huge sign. It tells us that capital is rotating out of Bitcoin and into altcoins. And that, my friends, is one of the primary signals that an altcoin season is either here or it's about to be. We've seen some interesting movements lately, with BTC.D currently hovering around 61%. This shows Bitcoin still has a strong foothold, but it also means there's a lot of potential energy waiting to flow into the altcoin market. You've gotta keep an eye on this chart. Alright, let's dive into something that's super important: the ETH-BTC ratio. This is a powerful chart. It doesn't show you the dollar value of Ethereum, but rather, it shows you how many Bitcoin it takes to buy one Ethereum. So, it's a direct comparison of the two biggest players in the space. Why is this ratio so key? Well, when you see the ETH-BTC chart moving upwards, it means Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin. It's gaining ground, and capital is flowing. Not just into crypto in general, but specifically from Bitcoin into Ethereum and, by extension, into the wider altcoin market. A rising ETH-BTC ratio is often one of the first, and strongest, signals that a major altcoin season is about to kick off. We've been seeing some really interesting movement on this chart. The ratio recently climbed from a low of around 0.035 to about 0.038. That's a significant bounce, especially considering Ethereum's recent strong performance, with its price surging past $4,300. This kind of action tells us that the narrative is shifting, and that investors are starting to look beyond just Bitcoin again. You gotta watch this chart like a hawk. Alright, so as we've been tracking, BTC dominance is currently hovering right around 60%. But here's the thing, it's hitting some serious resistance. Right at that 62% mark. This is why we're seeing it start to trend down. Now, if this downward trend continues, and it breaks below that crucial 50% level, that's the moment we've been waiting for. Capital isn't just trickling, it starts to pour out of Bitcoin and aggressively into altcoins. This is the exact phase where you see some altcoins not just outperforming BTC, but literally shooting up 100% in a single week, or even just a few days. And a super important note here, as BTC dominance is decreasing, you'll see a corresponding rise in the ETH-BTC ratio. The two charts are directly linked. This is Ethereum leading the charge for the entire altcoin market. So, in the next part of this video, I'm gonna give you a detailed roadmap for this surge, showing you how money moves from the smaller altcoins all the way up to the big players like Ethereum. Alright, let's take a look at this chart right here. This is an awesome visual that breaks down the path to alt season. It shows us exactly how money flows through the crypto market. So, let's start with phase 1, Bitcoin. You see, the first thing that happens in a bull market is money starts to flow into Bitcoin. You know, it's the king, it's the most established asset, and this causes Bitcoin's price to surge. This is where we see Bitcoin dominance going up. Then, we hit the phase overlap. This is where money starts to flow into Ethereum, but it's not quite keeping up with Bitcoin yet. Ethereum is still going back and forth, but it's slowly beginning to outperform. And that brings us to phase 2, Ethereum. At this point, Ethereum is clearly outperforming Bitcoin. We're hearing all the chatter about the flippening, you know, the idea that Ethereum's market cap could one day surpass Bitcoin's. During the next phase overlap, something cool happens. Money starts to trickle into the large cap altcoins. You know, the big projects with multi-billion-dollar market caps. We start to see some serious buying happening here. And that leads us into phase 3, large caps. Ethereum has been outperforming Bitcoin for a while, and now these large cap altcoins are starting to go parabolic. We see these massive, explosive moves. Now, during the next phase overlap, things get a little crazy. Regardless of a project's market cap, some of the altcoins, especially those with strong fundamentals, start to get these huge pumps. It's almost like a warm-up, and then, boom, we hit phase 4, alt season. The large caps have gone completely vertical. The blow-off tops are happening. And what's wild is that the mid-caps, low caps, and even the micro-caps all start to pump at the exact same time. It feels like every single coin is just going parabolic, regardless of its fundamentals. Memes are everywhere, everyone is super excited, and you can just feel the mania in the air. This is the top of the cycle. Alright, so here's the crazy part, and this is what I really want to emphasize. Looking at that chart we just saw, you know, the one with the different phases. I believe we are currently in phase 2, Ethereum. Right now, Ethereum is clearly outperforming Bitcoin. We're not just seeing the charts tell us this, we're seeing the conversations and the sentiment shift. Everyone is talking about the flippening again, you know, the idea that Ethereum's market cap could one day surpass Bitcoin's. This isn't just a fantasy anymore, it's a real possibility that people are betting on. This is a crucial moment for us. So, the big question is, how long does each of these phases last? Well, here's the thing. There's no exact timeline, we don't have a clock for this. But we can look at historical patterns to get a really good idea. Past cycles have shown that these phases can last anywhere from a few weeks to several months. The entire journey from the beginning of phase 1 to the end of phase 4, that can span a year or even longer. This cycle is also a bit unique. Some analysts believe that due to the increased institutional interest and the rise of Bitcoin ETFs, the Bitcoin-dominated phase lasted longer than it did in previous cycles. We saw BTC dominance surge to a 4-year high earlier this year, and it's only recently that we've seen that momentum start to shift. This just goes to show that you have to stay sharp and not rely on a fixed calendar. Instead, we have to keep our eyes on those key indicators like Bitcoin dominance and the ETH-BTC ratio, because they are the real-time signals that tell us exactly where we are and what's happening right now. Alright, so with all this momentum shifting toward altcoins, the obvious question is, which ones should we be looking at? First, you've got your large cap altcoins. These are the big players, like Solana, BNB, and Cardano. They've been seeing some pretty healthy gains, riding on Ethereum's coattails. Solana's been a standout, with its price up over 15% in the past week, and Cardano is not far behind with a gain of over 16%. They're more established, so they might not give you those 100x gains, but they offer a solid foundation for the altcoin rally. Then, you have the mid-caps. These are often projects with strong fundamentals and real-world use cases, but they're still below that massive valuation. Projects in the AI, gaming, and decentralized finance, or DeFi, sectors are getting a lot of attention right now. They're more volatile, but they have that potential for explosive growth we talked about. And finally, you have the small caps and meme coins. These are the high risk, high reward plays. We've seen some of them, like Dogecoin, seeing over 27% gains in a week. But look, these can be extremely volatile and are often driven by social media hype rather than fundamentals. You gotta be careful with these. The key is to do your own research, understand the risks, and have a clear strategy. Remember, this isn't financial advice, but it's a look at where the money is currently flowing. Alright, so to wrap everything up, here's the key takeaway. Bitcoin's price is really gonna depend on those critical support and resistance levels that we track. And of course, on all the big macroeconomic factors out there. You know, things like interest rates, inflation, and global economic sentiment. That's what drives the king. But altcoin season? That's a whole different story. It only truly arrives when the BTC Dominance Index starts to fall and money begins to flow aggressively into the altcoins. That's the one signal that tells you the party is getting started for the rest of the market. Before we wrap up this video, I just want to take a moment for a very important reminder. You know, everything we've talked about here today, all the charts, the analysis, the potential opportunities, this is not financial advice. The crypto market is incredibly volatile and carries significant risk. You absolutely have to do your own research, and only invest what you are prepared to lose. The information is for educational and entertainment purposes only, so please, be smart and be safe with your money out there. So, before you head out, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment down below and let me know which altcoins you're keeping a close eye on right now. I love reading all your thoughts. And if you found this video helpful, please do me a huge favor and hit that like button, and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on my next market analysis. We've got a lot more to talk about, so I'll catch you in the next one.